Welcome to the PD Pet Care Vlogs. I'm Dr. Cath Watson, and today we're going to talk about some of those foods that are especially around at Christmas time that you're going to want to be careful with around your dogs in particular. These are foods that often come out at Christmas time, things like mince pies, special meats, but also there tends to be a lot of food around, and because it's a festive time of year, often we've got family and friends around, maybe we're not quite as vigilant as we should be about where some of that food ends up. And if you've got a Labrador or a Schnauzer or just a generally food obsessed dog who vacuums up any food lying about, then obviously you need to be really aware of what foods you've got around and then what the risk might be to your dog. So I'm not going to give you an exhaustive list, but I'm going to talk through some of the common foods we have around at Christmas time that you just need to be super aware of around dogs. So number one, chocolate. I think, to be fair, most people already are aware of the risk of chocolate. Type of chocolate does matter. So dark chocolate's much more dangerous than your milk chocolates, but the amount that your dog consumes is also important relative to their size. There are chocolate calculators online where if you know how much they've consumed and you know the weight of your dog, you can work out whether it's likely to be a dangerous amount for them or not. And obviously if it's getting in that dangerous range, then I'd strongly recommend you call your veterinarian for assistance. Aside from chocolate, we tend to have a lot of sweet food around at Christmas, and because people are more and more conscious about the amount of sugar they're consuming, a lot of foods now have artificial sweeteners in them, and one of those is xylitol, and that can actually be quite dangerous to dogs. So being aware of foods that have xylitol in them, and that can be something as simple as peanut butter, then just making sure you're reading the labels and making sure that if it has got xylitol, keep it well away from your dogs. Obviously again at Christmas time we tend to eat lots of cured meats, salted meats, all that yummy ham, salamis and so on, but also often quite fatty meats. Again, ham tends to have a lot of extra fat on it, same with the bacon. Sometimes we're good at cutting that off ourselves, but we need to make sure you don't just leave that lying around for the dogs to eat. Or if you are going to give them a treat and they get a wee bit of that, just be aware it is really fatty and it can end up causing upset tummies and can lead to more serious problems like pancreatitis. So if you're going to give them any of that at all, please make sure it's only a small amount and with other food. You wouldn't want that to be the only thing they ate for the day. Along with Christmas dinner often comes the turkey and stuffing. That often contains quite a lot of onions and garlic. They can be toxic to dogs, so being very aware of what you've put onions and garlic in if you're going to give them any scraps or if they're potentially going to have access to those scraps. So that can actually make them quite sick. So keep those onions and garlics out of the way. Cooked bones. Talked about bones before. The risk of cooked bones in particular is that they splinter and then they get stuck or they cause lacerations in the gut, perforations. Just don't feed cooked bones. Raw bones that are about the size of your dog's head, find something for them to chew on, keep the teeth clean, chew all those yummy extra morsels off and then throw it away when they're starting to break it up, but stay well away from cooked bones. Another special treat at Christmas time for those who are nut lovers, macadamia nuts. Yum, but really expensive. Not worth leaving lying around for the dogs to find, but more importantly, they're also toxic for dogs, so make sure you keep those well out of the way. Another one that many people are aware of, but perhaps not everybody, anything containing raisins and sultanas. So particularly Christmas time, obviously we have mince pies, Christmas puddings, Christmas cake, all those yummy things that perhaps we don't eat so much of the rest of the year. Making sure you keep those well out of the way. We don't really know what it is in raisins and sultanas that are risky for dogs, and it seems some dogs seem to be able to eat them absolutely fine with no side effects, but those that do have problems with it, it causes an acute kidney injury which can lead to kidney failure. Not something you want to be going through at Christmas time. It's meant to be a festive season, not something where you're stressed about whether your pet is going to survive the holiday season or not. Avocados, stone fruit, anything with nice big round stones, corn cobs, all of these things, the gut can't cope so well with it, gets a bit stuck while trying to move them along, so they end up forming an obstruction. So keep those lovely roundish sort of objects well away from your dog's mouth. You don't want them swallowing them. Avocado is also obviously quite fatty, so you've got that same risk as the really fatty meats, that you might end up causing a tummy upset, or worst case scenario, a pancreatitis secondary to the amount of fat. Things like nutmeg, perhaps you haven't thought of, but that can cause seizures in dogs. So if you're a particular fan of something like eggnog, which obviously dogs and potentially cats as well are going to find quite attractive, make sure you keep them well away, because the nutmeg in there is definitely going to cause them some problems. And finally, alcohol. You might be somebody who consumes alcohol all year round and think it's not that much of a risk, but just remember, over Christmas time, often we'll have those celebratory drinks that maybe contain a bit more creamy or milky stuff. We make cocktails, drinking Baileys, all that sort of thing. Those milky drinks in particular are going to be attractive to cats and dogs, and a small amount of alcohol can have a really big effect on them. And while you might think it's funny to see your dog a wee bit drunk or tipsy, it's really not a good idea. That's pretty hard on them. Obviously not something they should be consuming regularly anyway, so it's not like they're going to get used to it. But again, a small amount can have quite a big effect because they're quite a lot smaller than us. So I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and festive season, and I hope that you keep your dogs well away from any risky objects so that everybody can have a wonderful time.